For me, it will be something that has never been done. For me, it will be something that'll be a mixture of 2D, frame by frame, 3D, and live action and photorealistic. So I will make a combination of everything. I'll put everything. So what's the craziest request you have got from your client so far?
Creating a feature film in 6 months. It's much more common from people that are not aware all the time a good animation takes to be alive. So I think maybe Rick and Morty show was that made us think, okay, we did it good here. That season won an Emmy, like almost all the seasons of Rick and Morty. That project made us think, okay, I think we're gonna be fine, and I have no doubt that we can work in the studio after this because our team and ourselves prove our value in that project. But maybe it was after Rick.
And welcome to Prolific Perspectives. This is Kamal Hassan, your host and founder of Prolific Animation Studio. We are all about exploring innovation, entrepreneurship, and how to be successful. Today, we have an amazing guest with us. I work with many big names, big brands out there like Warner Bros., Cartoon Networks, and many others. Carlos Gaxiola. Hey, Carlos, how are you?
Hi, Kamal. We're pretty good.
All right.
We're now connected from Guadalajara, Mexico. Hello, everyone. Thanks for hearing your podcast. We are super excited to be here. Thanks so much for the invitation, my friend.
So pleasure to have you with us. Carlos, please give your brief introduction to our audience so they'll know more about you.
Sure, of course. My name is Carlos Gaxiola. I'm the CEO and founder of Demente Animation Studio. Demente has 10 years of being created. We started back in 2015 as a very small studio here in Guadalajara City in Mexico. And I started to attend a bunch of events about animations and festivals. And we started to bring projects to the studio. We started first back in around 2016, working with Cartoon Network for Bunnicula show. Then we started work for Lego Unikitty. And after that, we started to work on Rick and Morty show. And we started to create, to support Warner Brothers home video with a feature film. And after that, there was a bunch of projects combined with companies such as Wildbrain, Moonbug, Mattel, Marvel. More recently, we have been working a lot with PBS Kids. And on the other side, we have been working a lot on video games industry, much more creating trailers, animated trailers for video games. That's another path or another way, another business, side business for Demente, not only entertainment but also into the video games industry. Yes, I'm Carlos Gaxiola from Demente Animation Studio. We started our studio 10 years ago in 2015, and we started working a lot at the beginning with Warner Brothers for Bunnicula show, also on Unikitty show, and then we started to work on Rick and Morty with Bardell Studio in Vancouver, and after that with a bunch of companies like Mattel, Moonbug, Wildbrain. Yeah, we're super excited to be here. Thanks so much for the invitation.
All right, so I'm going to start with the first question. And whenever I go to any networking event or whenever I have some, co-founders and CEO from the animation industry, so I ask this question to everyone about the misconception that people have running an animation studio. So Demente Animation Studio has worked with big brands like Warner Bros., Cartoon Networks, and many others. So what's the biggest misconception about running an animation studio?
Maybe the biggest misconception is that maybe that the projects are gonna come really fast and all the
it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare to get your first project on board and make that successful. That's another biggest nightmare. So
sure. On our side, maybe the biggest milestone we had was jumping. We started very small at the beginning with a few people working much more in advertising, like a lot of studios working on TV ads, animated TV ads. And yeah, jumping from the TV ads to animated series was complicated. Back on that on those days, because it required much more people, much more controls, more equipment. We had the chance to do it in a very organic way, you know. We did it. We passed from a team of five animators working on Bunicula show that was a Flash show, maybe the last Flash project we did
Mm-hmm.
in 2016, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we passed from five animators to 30 people
Wow.
because the show allow us to do it in a very organic way, because first month they asked us for us to create 1 minute. We did it, they like it. Next month they asked for 2 minutes. We did it, they like it. That's how it happened, right? We end up creating around 8 minutes monthly. uh, when the show was over, they like it. And I end up with a team of more or less 30 people, 30 computers. And after that, I realized that my work was bringing more similar projects to the studio. And it was my job since that
So what was
day.
what was what was, what
So
was an overall duration of the entire project? As you mentioned that you were producing 8 minutes a month. So how many minutes in total you produced for that show?
I don't have the number right here, but maybe I don't know. It could be like 5 or 6 months. And if the first month was 1 minute, the second month was 2 minutes, there were 3 minutes. So we end up, I don't know, maybe doing 30 minutes of the total show. But that was our proof that we had the chance to work, to get more work like that. After that, we started to work on Rick and Morty show. So Bardell also let us, starting slow, just a few shots, and after we starting to gain more boost and doing the things good, they were giving us more and more. So that's how we did it. You know, if we couldn't find a project that let us work that way, you know, from small to more, it will be very difficult. But fortunately, we had the good projects at the beginning, the good people to to show us how to do it. So I'm very grateful with those friends that are still friends at the moment. So yeah, I think that was the key, you know.
Great. So I'm going to ask you another question that's going to, relate to all of us, all the founders and co-founders from the animation industry, because we get this request quite often, right? So what's a crazy client request you have received that made you think, wait, you want us to animate what? So what's the craziest request you have got from your client so far?
Well, maybe the craziest requests that we receive sometimes are, I don't know, creating a feature film in, I don't know, 6 months, 1 year. It's very complicated. It's not possible. So we usually, when a crazy requests are coming to us, it's very common that that person is not very aware about the process and all the things you need to create a feature film. So I can say that it's not common, but it's much more common from people that are not aware of all the time that a good animation takes to be alive.
I get it. So you and your team have been part of City Island since day one, partnering with Augenblick Studios. What's been the most rewarding part of working as a PBS kids show?
Well, this is one of my favorite projects we ever participate. First, I met Aaron, my friend Aaron Augenblick. Uh, some years ago, we did some tests on his projects, and we had a great chemistry. We're the same age. He's in New York and Mexico. But we had a lot of things in common. So we I can say that maybe we convert in very good friends very fast, and it was very exciting to be participating in a kids shows with him, because he was coming much more for the adult kind of animation, like Adult Swim, Comedy Central. If you see Augenblick's work, it's much more in that field, but he was coming up with his first IP for PBS.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very good fit for us because it was short format.
Uh
It
huh.
has a lot of characters, but fortunately we found a way to move forward. I think the first season has like 300 characters to rig, and second season has like 500. So there's a lot of characters, a lot of things going on that show, but fortunately, a lot of characters are very simple. So there are a lot of movement. Everything is alive on that show, and that's something that I really like too. But I think it was a very good project that fits very good for us, and the people that hire us and the people from Augenblick Studios are great. So they are great people with almost the same values like us. So it was it was very cool project, and that's why it's one of my favorites. So if I'm going to New York, or if Aaron is coming to
Mm-hmm.
Guadalajara, that
Uh huh.
happens very often.
Uh huh.
We we see each other even if we don't have work in the
Okay.
middle,
Mm-hmm.
because the friendship is there. So that's something that I really value of that project, to be honest. And the people, the team on PBS Kids, it's amazing. I found in PBS Kids a great community. We have been invited last year to his PBS Kids Summit in Washington. I think we were the only Latin American studio there. The community is very small. They don't have they have a lot of work and projects, but the community of the studios and creative people around PBS Kids is not that big. So it's not a event of thousands of people. It was maybe, I don't know, maybe 100, 200 people in Washington. And we have a wonderful week with them. And we learned a lot. We learned a lot about uh, all the things they are looking for in a show. And I went together with
Uh huh.
with Aaron,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it was a great experience. So yeah, that's the cool part of working with friends and a very cool
So
companies.
being a special guest at the PBS Kids Summit in Washington is a big deal. So what was that experience like, and what insights did you take away from it?
Wow, yeah, definitely was one of my biggest experience ever. I am attending a lot of events every year, like NSE, like Kids Screen, and like GDC, which is the Game Developers Conference for video games, too. But this PBS Kids Summit, it's much more close, and it's full. It's not for networking, It's much more to understand what they are looking for. Something very cool that happened there is they show us the next projects that are gonna come in the near future, that I can talk about it, but they are very cool. They show us how they do it. We met the creators of the other shows that are just coming, and there's also very cool people. So at the end, you are always networking. So that's something very cool. But also, we learn a lot of the history behind PBS Kids,
Mm-hmm.
the classic shows
Uh-huh.
behind PBS Kids. So it was really cool show when we learned a lot from them for sure.
Great. So you have worked on A Night of the Animated Dead, a 2D remake of a horror classic. How does animating horror differ from the traditional animation? Is there a secret formula to making an animated scare hit harder?
Yeah, well, I don't think it was a secret formula. It was a low budget project for us because it came from
So
Warner
do you mind me? Do
Brothers
you mind me
home
asking
video.
you what is a low budget in for you?
Yeah, for sure. It was less than $2 million
Okay.
for the complete production of a feature film in 2D frame by frame animation. So we didn't did any breaks animation, and it was 2D the whole movie, and yeah, we did all the backgrounds. There were more than 480 backgrounds, the whole feature film in a little bit more than 1 year. So it was like a very fast pace. It was frame by frame animation, which is always hard when you have a short deadline. And also, yeah, I think we something very difficult on that show was creating. We started to project at the end of 2019, so a couple of months after the pandemic arrived.
Happened. Yeah.
We needed to learn to move everything to
Mm-hmm.
work remotely. So fortunately, we found a way to do it properly. It was a bit crazy, like for everyone, everything what that was happening and all the stress around the pandemic. Plus, we were fortunate because we keep the projects, we keep the work, and in the pandemic, we received much more projects. But I think that was the key. But we didn't have any specific or secret formula behind. It's a 2D frame by frame animated movie, but it was we needed to have it limited. Even if it was frame by frame, there's we need to put a lot of limits in the animation because of budget. So I think at the end, important was that we deliver on time. We learn a lot in the project, so the people receive it. I think people receive it like it was,
Mm-hmm.
like a home video feature
Mm-hmm.
film, and it was our first feature film for Dementes. So we were very excited with the results.
Great. So you were an animation supervisor or on Animaniacs. So the show has such a unique comedic style. What's the key to nailing that in animation?
Well, for Animaniacs, I think we just help in some few shots with Titmouse. We didn't did a lot, but to be honest, it is very difficult show, and for the budget we have, we couldn't. It was at the beginning almost of I think it was in the pandemic too, I guess. But I didn't even remember that project because it was very small. We just create some few shots that we
Mm-hmm.
helped Titmouse on that. But yeah, it was a great experience for sure.
Great. So reinventing a classic like Thomas and Friends must be a challenge. What's the trick to keeping a legacy franchise fresh for new generation? And if you could give any of the character a modern day personality, who would it be and why?
Yeah, it was a pretty cool project. The first project we start working with Moonbug and Mattel because Mattel was also behind that project. I think the biggest challenge on that project was um, maybe something very cool that project has was that there was a new character called Bruno that is an autistic character train. So we were the first studio in animating that new character, and it was very challenging because uh, even when we were trying to animate it as best as we can, we had a lot of reviews because there was like specific reviewers of the shots from different association, artistic association that was giving us feedback in
Uh-huh.
how Bruno will
Mm-hmm.
move and act because he's an autistic character. So maybe that was the most challenging part of that show. But we felt at the end we felt super proud of being the first studio in animating an autistic character on Thomas. So yeah, that was a great experience for sure.
Great. So, Timania Studio isn't just about animation, you're also involved in the gaming industry. What's the biggest difference between animating for film or TV and animating for a video games?
Yeah, we some years ago, maybe a couple of years ago, we started to diversifying in the projects for the studio. 2023 was a pretty hard year for us and maybe for a lot of studios.
A lot of studios,
Uh,
because 2023 and almost half of the 2024 was challenging for the entire industry. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. But for us, the 2023 was when we felt the bubble of the overproduction of pandemic blow up. So yeah, 2022 was pretty hard, and we started to diversify as a new strategy on the studio and bring trailer animation for video games. So on that side, the main difference working on entertainment is that in trailers you must raise up the quality as much as you can in a very short time, because you only have 1 minute, minute and a half, 2 minutes to bring, most impactful animation according to the budget also. But yeah, that I think that's the main difference, because in a show or in a series there it's much more like a
Mm-hmm.
longer format. You spread the money shots on every episode, and you have a very a lot of equilibrium between all the episodes. And here every shot is like a money shot usually.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Uh-huh.
that's I think that's the main difference. But
Mm-hmm.
also, yeah, I love working on trailers because a lot of IPs of video games are very extreme, are very impactful. For example, we recently created a trailer for a Lucha Libre video game, and we had the chance to create our own characters of Lucha Libre, and we animate, the famous movements of the lucha libre into the trailer. So it was a pretty cool project because it's very rewarding in from the creative point of view.
Great. So producing animation comes with its own challenges. What was the biggest hurdle in bringing House on the Outlands to life?
Okay, for House of the Outland it was a pretty cool show that we love the style, but it's also a lot of action every time. So the biggest goal, or the biggest thing to do there was definitely having so much action and 2D VFX all the time, because the project is super cool. You can see the 6 episodes in YouTube now, but it's full of action, full of characters, full of VFX, and maybe it has been the most challenging project, and everything was frame by frame too. So it was very, very complicated show,
Uh-huh.
but it's very rewarding when you show it and you feel very proud of it.
So there are many trends are changing, a lot of things are changing in the animation industry. So what's a trend in animation that excites you right now?
Hmm, that's a good question. What excites me? No, something that excites me a lot is seeing stuff that we haven't seen before. For example, I feel like small studios or boutique studios like us, uh, we're starting to have more chances outside because when you see projects like Flow, right, that now it's nominated. I don't know if you watch the movie Kamal, but when you see the pipeline and the amount of people that do it, it gives us a lot of hope because in the past when you saw or you're watching movies from Pixar, DreamWorks, of course we love them all, but it was like a very complicated to reach that level of quality for any studio that doesn't have $100 million in
Yeah,
their pockets,
absolutely.
right?
I would agree with you
And
100%.
after movies like Flow, it's like it's showing us that it's possible to dream and to reach something like that in your own style. So yeah, I think that's something that really makes me crazy right now because I can feel that yeah, we have a lot of chances out there if we can do our stuff really good.
Absolutely. So if you could produce any animated series or movie with no limits, what it would be?
I don't know, Kamal. Uh, uh, that's a good question, but I don't know. it, it's it's
Because
I don't know.
whenever because you are on the service side and I'm on the service side too. Whenever we get into the project, we always get the requirements and that always limit us to not to explore our own imagination. So that is the reason because always whenever we get the project on board, we have to follow the scope of work. We have to stick to the guidelines and everything that we get from any big animation studio or production company. So that's why I asked you this question, that if you could, if you will get a chance to produce something on your own with no limits, no restrictions, so what it would be. For me, it will be something that has never been done. For me, it will be something that'll be a mixture of 2D, frame by frame, 3D, and live action and, photorealistic. So I will make a combination of everything. So I'll do whatever I want to do in that project. I'll put everything. I'll go crazy.
Yeah, maybe I was thinking for something more like specific, but yeah, yeah, something very crazy, something that I like for movies like, and it's not, yeah, of course, has a lot of animation, but like Ready Player One, that you're mixing a bunch of IPs together, or like a Space Jam 2, where Warner bring a lot of their own IPs there and mix it. I don't know. Maybe it could be something like that because you're not going to have restrictions. So yeah, definitely. But it's a great question. I think if you leave me,
Uh-huh.
maybe I'm gonna take some days to answer something specific because
I get it. I
it's
get it.
we're always.
I completely understand. So, what's one moment in your career that made you think, "Wow, I can't believe I can get to this for a living"?
Well, I think it was more or less when we started to, maybe from on the 2019, when we started to work several projects at the same time, that we were working with. We already work with Sesame Studios, with also with Cartoon Network, and we were working with Rick and Morty show. I think maybe Rick and Morty show was the show that made us think, okay, we did it good here. that season won an Emmy, like almost all the seasons of Rick and Morty. But that project made us think, okay, I think we're gonna be fine, and I have no doubt that
Great.
we can be an important studio after this, because
Hmm.
our team and ourselves prove our value in that project. But maybe it was after Rick and Morty show.
Great, great. So that was my last question, Carlos. And thank you for tuning into another episode of Prolific Perspectives. We hope you enjoyed this insightful conversation with Carlos. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time.